Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mental Toughness and Body Show. My name is Rob Evans, and I'm your transformation coach, health strategist, and internationally published author, helping take your life, your business, your health, and fitness from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. And I'm excited. I've got a special guest with me today, Kody Thompson. Welcome to the call, Kody.
Thanks, mate. Excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So Kody I'm going to get him to share a little bit about his story in a moment, but we're connected through a coach that I used like 10 years ago. And I think what's great about this environment we live in these days that we can just connect with anyone around the world. I'm assuming are you in Australia?
Yeah. I'm in northern New South Wales on the east coast of Australia.
There you go. So for those listening overseas, most of the audience is international. I'm in Melbourne, so northern cousin, enemy. I don't know. Sorry, Sydney have this thing going on.
Yeah.
Kody's a very successful entrepreneur. He's gone from pretty much no money to build a multi-million-dollar business, and now he's been able to sell that off, and now start a new business, which is an exciting venture, which I think anyone listening to this today is going to benefit from what it is that you're doing now. So we'll talk about that as we go through. But Kody, maybe as by way of introduction, tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do from an entrepreneurial perspective.
Sure. Thanks so much, Rob, for having me here. My background, I actually was a youth pastor when I finished school. So that's where it kind of started for me. I never planned on getting into business, but I took on a volunteer position running youth programs, and I needed to make some money. So I started a graphic design business. I anticipated doing that for a short period of time, just until the volunteer role grew into a paid position, which I was confident it was going to. But then the graphic design business took off, and it transformed into my first company, which is called Lightning Sites. And as you mentioned just a moment ago, I recently exited that as the CEO, got out of the day-to-day, sold that to a US company that has taken over that. And I'm still involved in the leadership of that business, but now focused on another venture called WorkPod, where we help people hire staff in the Philippines. So that's a little bit about my entrepreneurial background.
Yeah, nice. So tell me, how old were you when you decided to go into business?
I was 20. I was 21 when I took on a volunteer role. So previous to that, I was working full time. Actually, I was 22. I was working full time as a pastor, running leadership programs, and then as I mentioned just a moment ago, I took on a volunteer role, and so I needed to make some money. And it wasn't like I was trying to get into business. I was just trying to survive, put food on the table, and then it just really took off. And so I realized it was kind of almost like accidentally started a business. I was running it more as a freelancer, and then obviously we were doing some good work, and it just sort of took off from there.
So this is interesting because I was 42 when I started business. So I was in corporates for like 19 years before I decided to start business. So this is a good conversation because you started your career that way. I didn't start my career that way. So I guess I know it is changing a little bit because like anyone can jump online and start a business today and do so. It doesn't mean it'll be successful, but they can start.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is? So why didn't you just go and get a job? Because that's kind of what our schooling system, is modeling us down to. You get these qualifications and then you go get a job, and then you realize everything that you studied and everything is really of no use to you. But so why didn't you get a job, and why did you think you had this entrepreneurial spirit? I know you said that you fell into it by accident and so forth, but you could have said, you know what, this is too hard, I'm going to go get a job. So what made you stick with it?
Well, actually, I did apply for jobs. I'm just trying to remember back exactly what happened and how it happened, because it did.
How long ago are we talking?
It was like 20. I was 22, 23 years old, so I'm 34 now.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I did apply for jobs. I remember going to a particular marketing agency and asking them for a job. And I was only asking like 65 grand a year. Was what I was hoping to get paid. And I ended up growing my business, obviously, from nothing into, a $3 million company over the next 8 years. So it's funny because if they had have put me on in that agency. Imagine the growth that agency would have had, having someone like me sort of helping grow their business rather than growing my own. So it's interesting. I went for that, and they didn't want to pay me the 65,000. And I think it kind of came down to the flexibility of just, I was like, okay, well, I'll just make some money freelancing for the next 6 months. And I knew that the church that I was going to, they wanted to pay me. They just didn't have the funds immediately available. I knew that I could help them grow the program, the leadership and youth program that they were running there. And so I kind of figured I'll do this for 6 months, and then they'll be able to pay me and I'll be back working in a job. So it certainly wasn't intentional. It was only then over the next sort of 12 months, I think I made about 110K in my first 12 months working as a freelance graphic designer. And as a youth pastor, I made $30,000 the year before. So
yeah,
for me, I was like, felt like I'd made it nearly in that first 12 months. And so I just felt that my life was headed in a different direction in terms of what I should be doing with my career. And so, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, nice work. And so you mentioned that, so you built that business up over the 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Why make the change now to do what you're doing now? And you said that you're still involved, but not.
Not in the day to day.
More leadership and not day to day.
Yeah.
So what was the reason for that change?
Yeah, I mean, both businesses were growing very rapidly. So Lightning Sites.
So you were doing both, were you?
I was running both, yeah. So Lightning Sites is really is a web development company, and a big part of growing that business was building a team in the Philippines. I have about 70 odd staff in the Philippines for Lightning Sites, and then a small team of 4 here in Australia that runs that business. And so I'd been building that up over the years. And as I was building up that business, a lot of our clients were asking me like how I was achieving the growth that we were having with Lightning Sites. And I would share with them about, what I was doing in the Philippines. And then naturally other businesses were asking me if I could help them to do the same thing. And that's how WorkPod started. I had a new building that we had built to house our web development team. And there was space for 120 staff in that office. But we only had, at the time, 50 or 60 staff. And so my theory was, if I just rent out the spare desks that I have in the building, I get my rent and internet and everything in that building for free. So I kind of figured I didn't like wasting any assets. There was desks available there. So I went back to people that I'd met before who'd asked me for help. And then I offered for them to use my recruitment team to hire staff and put them in my office. And so those 50 or 60 desks got filled up within a few months. And I realized, that there was a huge need in the market for people to be able to hire staff directly and not use an agency. And so that's how WorkPod was born. So both of them started to grow rapidly. And over the last 2 years, I just realized I couldn't be the CEO of both companies and do them both justice. I needed to bring someone into Lightning Sites to help run that so that I could focus more attention on WorkPod.
So when you got started with WorkPod, prior to setting up the full business, were you using agencies yourself for those staff to try and do it that way, so you didn't have to build it from scratch?
Yeah. So when I first started Lightning Sites, I did go over to the Philippines and I investigated what they call BPOs, which is essentially an agency that hires staff in the Philippines and then leases them to you. And the ones that I visited, the culture there, basically my staff begged me not to put them in one of those offices. Just the way that the culture is there is, can often be quite toxic. And then I just don't like the business model because, as a business owner, you don't want your success predicated on another business's success. So if you've got like your most important asset in your business are other people, and if the people are not, owned by you in a sense, they're not your employees, then you're putting a lot of risk in your business. The other agency is essentially in control of your most important asset. Yeah. And so I just didn't like that model. I tried using freelancer websites like Upwork and Freelancer, but you tend to find people that are not looking for full-time work. They're kind of freelancers. And so, they're not really looking for, at least most of them, an ongoing relationship and career. So I just didn't feel like there was any good model. So I ended up going to the Philippines, meeting with a lawyer. I created a company in the Philippines, rented my own building, and started hiring staff directly. And so, yeah, it was I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And so WorkPod essentially provides what I wish I had when I started building lightning sites, 9 years ago.
Yeah, nice. Well done. So a lot of people listening to this can be fearful of outsourcing, and particularly certainly here in Australia, Philippines type call centers is what a lot of people get exposed to.
Yeah.
And can normally cite a bad experience that they've had.
Yeah.
Personally, I've used an agency before to use staff in the Philippines. I don't right now, but maybe we'd have a separate discussion on that.
Yeah.
And I've had both good and bad experience. Well, I'll say bad experiences first, and then good experiences to find the right people. And the longer you get to know the people that you're working with, or I just had one full-time person working for me. There's a lot of stuff that does go on in these agencies, and you realize, well, how much you're paying the agency, but when you realize how little that they're actually getting, it's like, oh, okay, I had no idea.
It's borderline slave labor. When you kind of like are hiring someone at a very discounted rate, and then you're, doubling or even tripling the salary and selling them to somebody else.
Yes.
If you're not providing a huge amount of value in terms of management, training, and things like that, then what is that margin actually for? And that's where I have an ethical problem with that kind of business model. Like, I don't feel like it's a win for anybody else other than the agency. It's not a win for the client because they pay more money, and it's not a win for the Filipino because they don't get treated well, they don't get paid well. And so the only person that wins in that business model is the agency.
So a few of the things that would say separate you from, say, the rest, obviously you're employing the people directly. Do you have people on the ground that you trust to do those interviews? Are you personally doing it? Is your team here doing it? And what are maybe perhaps some of the other things that you would say separate you from everybody else that's doing this type of stuff?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is that you essentially use our recruitment team. So we go out and we find the talent that you need in your business. And it doesn't matter if it's just a general administration role or a very specific role. Like we've built teams of accountants for accounting firms. We've built teams of lawyers for legal firms. We hired a set of lawyers for a town planning firm in New South Wales. We've hired architects, CAD drawers. So even specific type roles, we basically go out, find the talent for you, and then we help you negotiate a fair salary for both you and the Filipino. And then we facilitate an exchange of contract where you hire the staff directly. So they're not hired by WorkPod and then leased to you. There's a direct relationship, and that's really important, because if you don't have that direct relationship, there's that lack of transparency you talked about before, where you're like, I'm paying the agency this, but how much is the person really getting paid? And so you're able to then create your own culture. You're able to pay them directly. There's a proper employee-employer type relationship. We just facilitate the contracts and the recruitment. And then we have state-of-the-art facilities where we charge our clients a fee to then have that staff member work in one of our WorkPod facilities. And we're in the process of doing a fit out at the moment, and we spend about $2,500 per desk. So this new facility's got about 450 desks in it. So we're spending, nearly $1 million on the facility. So we build really nice facilities. The staff then work from those facilities. We provide, support to our clients in Australia, with software to help them manage the staff, with a training center to help them train the staff. We have HR support. We have IT support. We obviously look after internet, desks, facilities, all that type of stuff. And so our clients can essentially use our infrastructure to build their own company within our WorkPod facilities. So it's a much different approach as opposed to us hiring the staff. We're really building our own company and then leasing the staff out. It's a much different model. It works out to be more affordable for our clients in Australia, and they have a direct relationship with their team. So that's, I guess, the main crux of the difference between us as opposed to other agencies.
And no working from home?
No, we don't recommend working from home. Obviously, once their client's contract is up with WorkPod, they can take the staff to work from home if they like. But I know, at least for my business, when Lightning Sites was going through COVID, we had to have all of our staff work from home, as did, every business. And we had like a 25 to 30% productivity drop, during COVID when everyone was working from home. So from my perspective, if you're building a team where you want to build like a sizable team with a, great collaborative culture, then having everyone in the office is far more effective.
Yeah, I would agree that were my observations as well from using the staff there. And from what I understand, like over there, big issues with stability of power and internet.
That's right.
On where people are located. So I'm assuming it's better, like in the city or where you're putting your offices and so forth, compared to many people's homes, which you're quite unstable from what I was led to believe.
The whole country is less stable in terms of an internet and power. They have tsunamis and other kind of like weather events that can kind of wreak havoc. And so, having people work from home, they don't have the redundancies in place. Like we have to have multiple internet redundancies, power generators that can flick on instantly if power goes out. If you're operating in a country like that, you have to have those redundancies. Obviously, if they're working from home, they can't spend, we spend $17,000 a month on internet. So obviously, if they're working from home, they're using cheap home internet, then they don't have those redundancies in place. So that is part of the reason why they're less productive.
So as a business, so your business, how are you getting paid?
Yeah, we charge our clients a fee to have them work in our office. So it's a direct, and then obviously the support around that, as I mentioned before, we have software, a training platform. We help with HR, IT requirements, all that type of stuff. So we basically provide the infrastructure and support, and we charge our fees directly to our clients, so they can see exactly what they pay us. They can see exactly what they pay the staff member. So it's very transparent.
Okay, so it's not like one amount. It's like itemized. Okay, you pay, I don't know, $20 an hour for the staff member. You pay $30 a month or week, whatever, for the infrastructure costs.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So why the Philippines? I know it's you can think of the obvious as to labor rates and so forth, but if I think about where we're based here, so whether it be the Philippines, like why not Indonesia? Why not I don't know, South Africa or India or places like that? So what's the attraction to the Philippines?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not the only place, like you said, South Africa, even Eastern Europe for like developers, things like that. There's other countries that are, that are good, but what really sets the Philippines apart is it's only a few hours behind here in Australia, or if you're in the Western Australia, then it's the same time zone. So time zone is important. The other thing is that the Philippines was settled by the US for a while there, so they have had large US military bases there. So the English communication skills there are very, very good, as opposed to, let's say, Vietnam, that is being a lot of people are outsourcing to Vietnam or Indonesia. Their English communication skills are nowhere near the quality of the language, English speaking language in the Philippines. A lot of young people, particularly, they speak English to each other in the Philippines all the time.
Right.
So that makes a big difference. Their culture is very aligns very well with Australian culture, whereas some other countries, it's harder for people to, if they're beginners at working with remote teams, it's harder for them to culturally align. Because of the American influence in the Philippines, it's easier to align culturally. So there's a few reasons like that, but obviously the cost is another reason. It's about a sixth of the price to live in the Philippines. So that means that salaries are about a sixth of the price of what you'd pay for a salary here in Australia. And so that's where the commercial benefit, comes into play.
Yeah, it makes sense. So your target is just Australia. You don't want to go outside Australia, or maybe New Zealand, but...
Yeah, we have we do have clients all over the world. We have clients in the US, in the UK. And so it's in Australia, the time zone is a big reason, but there's other reasons for those other countries that work. Like in the UK, a lot of Filipinos enjoy working the afternoon shift from 4 till midnight. That basically aligns with UK clients. US clients, there's a lot of Filipinos who work night shift. So it still works. And the pricing, still works. It's just for Australia, it's a no-brainer because it's so close, time zone wise. That's just a big benefit for Aussie and New Zealand business owners as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, good points. Tell me, what would you say is important to you right now?
Spending more time with my family. I have 3 kids. I got a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I've got 3 girls under 6. So that was a big, part of my decision pulling back from Lightning Sites was there's 2 main reasons. The first one was that I felt like I was gonna stop the company from growing if it didn't have someone dedicated running it as the CEO, because my time was being so pulled away with my other businesses. But also, I don't want to eat into family time. That's the most important thing to me, is my wife, Sarah, my 3 daughters. And so I didn't want, what I do for work to hold back my opportunity to spend time with them.
Yeah, nice. It's I don't know, people talk about life work balance. I don't know that you ever have that, but it's more about managing your energy, isn't it? And your so that it's home time now, so you put all your energy into that. It's work time now, put all your energy into that.
That's right.
I think, and I'm assuming you would agree with this, that like if you want to be successful, it's got to require sacrifice at some point. And sometimes that is time with family. Sometimes it's going without sleep. Sometimes it's going without some food. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, it's not as if there is some sort of separation in our brain between the different areas of our life. It's not, at least in my opinion, it's not like we're not robots, right? You can't just have like a slice of our brain that's like allocated to work and a slice of brain that's allocated to family and then to hobbies and things like that. It's just not I don't think the way that we work emotionally, at least from my perspective. It's about living a life that you enjoy, and all of these elements are part of life. Like working is part of life, spending time with your family is part of life. But if you don't manage your energy and your time well, then what you can find is that you become like off balance, I guess, emotionally. And you end up burning relationships. So it's a constant juggle, at least for me. I don't feel like I'm ever, fully aligned. You have moments of being fully aligned where everything feels perfect, but it's just about trying to chase that, balance as much as you can. So, I guess that's how I kind of look at it.
I think personally, I find, so I've been running business 14 years now. Personally, I find being able to switch my brain off is really difficult because I work so hard to condition myself to, high performance outcomes and knowing that, okay, I've got to do all of these things to keep that going. And I don't want to stop. So it's like, if I stop, what if all this disappears? You've got so much focus and momentum. It's like, well, if I stop, it might stop. So I do it 7 days a week. And so even when I'm lying in bed at night and I'm like, it's hard to switch the head off. But one of the things that I've learned is being present for the family when you're there, and you I schedule time in my calendar to make sure that I don't miss out on those things, because like you've got 3 under 6. I can tell my eldest one just turned 18 in August. The time goes so quickly.
Exactly.
It's really important to keep that in there. So I want to go dark now. I want you to think about your biggest failure. What was it, and what did you learn from it?
My biggest failure.
It could be business, personal, whatever.
Look, I would say my biggest failures over the years is just mismanaging relationships, that you have along the way, not communicating with people, effectively. Like I can think, there's so many times, like I've had staff, over the years resign because you just weren't aware, or sort of like, you just weren't aware what they were feeling. And if they didn't communicate on their end either, then you can easily drift apart from people that are important in your life. I remember when I was younger, when I finished school, I moved out from home, And there were certain things that my dad used to do with me. Like I used to go play sport on weekends, and my dad would always take me. And I just become part of a local church, and we were recording music and things like that I really got into. And I quit playing sport and just threw myself into this music and the youth program work that I was doing through the church. And I didn't realize at the time how important that time was to my dad. And so it really, damaged the relationship, not because neither of us did anything, nasty towards each other, but just because we lost that proximity of time, you lose that relationship. And I just think over the years, there's been probably countless times that, that I've not been enough emotionally aware or aware of the other person's needs. And so you mismanage a relationship that kind of, can hurt people. So I guess that's something that I try my best to be good at. But I don't know if you can, I don't think you can ever be perfect at it. But certainly over the years, I'd say my biggest failures would revolve around, situations like that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we're born and we're given no skills apart from the ability to breathe and think for most of us. And yet the success of business, the success of us as individuals is communication. First of all, communicating with ourselves. And I think you're right. It's one of the big lessons that I've certainly learned as well. I would say, firstly, the communication with myself was very toxic when I was younger. It's impossible to be negative now, but it came through pain to change. And then the conversations that you have with yourself when they're more positive, it's like, well, actually, I'm not having those conversations with anyone else. And so I need to improve my external relationships as well, whether they be intimate relationships or whether they just be business relationships or, family relationships and so forth. I think particularly as men too, we're not great at communicating things. We internalize a lot. And so it's a real skill. And you're right, you're never going to have a perfect day, because I think it's like I like to think is, what can I do today to make today better than yesterday? Communication is always part of that. You might just have an off day, an off moment, and you think, oh, did I say the wrong thing? Did I not say the right thing? Has a message been interpreted the wrong way? Or, how do you keep growing your business, but how do you keep those other friendships and relationships going as well?
It's a constant struggle, isn't it? It's not something that I don't think you ever perfect it. I think to be honest, that's where the true mastery comes from, is realizing that we are flawed, that we're not, nobody's perfect, and being able to have that empathy towards people where you don't expect things of people that you don't expect from yourself, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people will get upset, like, oh, they never talked to me, or they never called me to ask how I was going, or whatever the complaint might be. And you kind of project those requirements on others, and then don't expect that same level of like empathy from yourself towards other people. So I tend to always just try to look at myself in the mirror rather than, have those expectations of others. Instead, try to, be proactive at being the best person that I can be towards the people around me. So, I think that true mastery comes from realizing that you're not perfect, and that, you've done things, just as many things to hurt people as others might have done to you. You know what I mean?
Yes. And just seek to be better, I think, is the objective. If you've got that mindset, you will strive for ways to be better.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah.
So let's flip that now, talk about successes. Now, your greatest success can't be children or partners, because everyone says, oh, it was my kids. So not those, but what would you say has been, say, your greatest success, and why?
There's leaders that have been a part of my journey along the way, like through being a youth pastor to growing my companies. There's people within those teams that have been with me. Like I've got staff at Lightning Sites that have been with me since my first ever staff member is still there today. And so there's leaders that I have worked with, and I feel that I have been able to impart and encourage them to develop into the people that they are today. Obviously, I'm not taking all the credit for what they've done, but certainly they they have been able to, I've been able to support them to grow into doing amazing things. Like there's guys that are running their own youth ministries now, or guys that are running their own churches now that were, people that came through my programs. There's guys in my organization now that started as, as my EA, and then now run large parts of our company. So I think that, to me, that's something that, I kind of makes me feel good about, when I see what some of the people have been able to achieve, and that I've been able to play a small role in that. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, nice work. It's always great to see people that you've either coached or worked with that go on to be successful and like can change their life and be super happy and loving what they're doing. So well done. Just a couple more questions for you. So there'll be people listening to this and thinking, well, this all sounds great, but they're thinking, oh, well, I can't do this, etc. Maybe could you give us an insight into what's not your best day or worst day, but a typical sort of day, in what does that look like for you in terms of success? Like what time are you getting up? Just tell us a bit about what you're doing to structure your day to be successful.
Yeah, I have a to-do list and a diary. I mean, this is some stuff pretty basic, but just making sure that I am planning the time that I have effectively. I don't necessarily get up super early. I'm usually awake by 7 or something like that. When the kids get up, I make them breakfast. I usually head to work at about 8:30, and then I work through till 5. That's kind of my typical day. At the end of each day, I plan my next day, so that when I get to work in the morning at 8:30, I'm not wondering what I need to do. I have a plan already for the next day. And I think that's a big part of it. And then probably the other element is that I have sort of 90-day sprints. So there's certain goals that we have for the business over the next 12 months. And all of our key staff have what we call 90-day action plans for the next 90 days to help us achieve our 12-month and 5-year goals. And so that helps us to stay aligned as a leadership team. And me personally, over the next 90 days, I have very specific objectives that I'm trying to focus on in my business. And I think that's been, I think focus is a huge part of growing businesses successfully. Like I don't work huge hours. Like I work, like I said, 8:30 till 5. But when I'm at work, I can make sure that my time is effective and that I'm working on things that don't just make me busy, but actually grow the company. So I think that's a mistake a lot of business owners make. They make themselves very busy, but not effective.
Yes.
So yeah, if you're spending time on the things that are actually going to move the needle in your business, then you don't need as much time to grow the company. You can make smaller, like less decisions, but more important decisions, and you can grow the business 10 times faster than someone who's kept themselves busy, but busy on the wrong things.
Yeah, sure. Obviously being an area that I'm passionate about, what do you do in the space of health, wellness, fitness, and so forth?
Yeah, I used to train a lot, to be honest. I was really into CrossFit for a long time. I worked with a lot of CrossFit gyms building their websites and stuff over the years. I haven't been training as much as I would like. We're very careful what we eat. My wife is a great cook, and we're starting to grow a lot of our own food on our farm here. So certainly our eating habits are really good. But ever since I had, kids, it's been harder to train. So I exercise as much as I can. I work a lot on the farm on weekends. So I am, getting a lot of steps in and stuff like that. But hopefully my youngest now is 2. So it's less disruptive for sleep. So hoping I can start to get up a little bit earlier and hit the weights a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got a bit of a dad bod at the moment, 5 or 6 kgs over, my normal training weight. So I'm looking forward to getting back and hitting the weights a little bit more.
Nice work. Don't wait too long.
No.
Last question. What would you say is next for you?
Well, WorkPod, our goal is we've placed 600 staff in the last, 18 months. And our goal is to create 5,000 jobs in the next 5 years. So that's what I'm focusing all my attention at work on that. It's just, creating opportunities to hire staff in the Philippines. That creates opportunities for businesses to expand and grow here in Australia, New Zealand, and all around the world. And so that's sort of our focus, is to, create those jobs and empower business owners to scale their business.
Yeah, nice, nice. And so if anyone wants to get in touch and engage in using your services, I'll put any links below this podcast. But
Yeah.
how do people do that? How do people get in touch with you to?
Just check out our website. It's at workpod.com, WRKPOD.com, WRKPOD.com. And you can, there's heaps of information. We got videos on there, free training videos. We've got, checklists and downloads and tons of information. And so people can take a look around on our website. If they like what they see, there's a link there where they can schedule in a call. Otherwise, they can also find me on LinkedIn.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a really great, Kody. Thanks so much for your time today. I think it gives a great insight into how you can build something from nothing. You don't have to go and work for someone else. You can create it all yourself. There's a lot of pain and struggle along the way, but you've done that. You're maintaining, building a family and doing all that as well, and inspiring others, and now providing solutions for people around the globe. So kudos to you. Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your result. I think to be able to build a business, then exit is also a great achievement as well.
Thank you.
So I think there's been a lot of points to take away here for the audience today. And thanks so much, and see if we can get you some work.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks for the encouragement around the health space too. I'll make sure I hit those weights.
Yeah, now that we're connected, don't worry. I'll
keep
tabs on you. Thanks a lot,
buddy.
Kody.